Frank's still with us, James Olley joining us now. I want to talk more about the situation at Chelsea, if we can, James, and how this civil war, if we can call it that, between Todd Boehly and Behdad Egbahli actually began, and if sacking Pochettino was the main instigator here.
Well, no. I mean, you have to go back really to the start, right to the beginning, when obviously this wasn't a typical takeover. The circumstances around the Roman Abramovich exit from the club was obviously hugely controversial, and it happened very, very quickly. The club was put up for sale effectively in March, and by the end of May, it was sold. And that, you're talking about, it was £2.5 billion at the time, and that is a world record fee for a sports team, for a professional sports team. So this is a massive, massive transaction that took place in a very, very short space of time. And because of that, the bidders involved were doing a lot of it on the fly. And when you think about the consortium that Todd Boehly and Clearlake Capital put together, these aren't sort of bedfellows who've been, business partners for a long time, going back decades, and thought, why don't we try our hand at buying a football club? This was very much sort of thrown together, a sense of opportunity. Clearlake Capital, a private investment fund, was the money effectively, and Todd Boehly was supposedly a bit of the know-how. He tried to buy Tottenham a couple of years earlier, so he'd done some of his due diligence about the Premier League, and he supposedly understood a little bit more about the game than a private investment fund, Clearlake. And so they came together, bought the club, and tried to move it forward. And I think what we've seen over the last couple of years is a shift away from Todd Boehly taking the reins at the start to Clearlake Capital starting to, as the majority shareholder, sort of say, actually, we're not sure we like some of these decisions, and wanting to take more centre stage. So it's kind of a situation that's deteriorated over a period of time. I think the results have not helped that. The Pochettino thing, I think, was a significant factor in that. I remember coming on this show at the time and saying that there was a disagreement at the top of the club about whether they should keep Pochettino. And one of the things that I was trying to allude to there was that Todd Boehly effectively wanted to keep him, and Behdad Egbahli and Clearlake wanted to get rid of him. And this is where it had just got to the point this summer where these decisions were starting to be questioned internally, and it was getting to a point where they felt as though they can't really work together anymore. And now we sit here today, and the two parties are looking to options to whether they can buy each other out.
So what impact is this power struggle going to have on the club, James? Because obviously that's what the fans want to know.
Well, look, I mean, to some extent, it already has had an impact on the club, because when we've talked on this show a lot about the sort of scattergun approach and Chelsea's transfer policy not really making a lot of sense, and they've spent an awful lot of money, 1.2 billion. Yes, some of that has been recouped, but it's looked crazy from the outside. And a lot of that is because of this struggle behind the scenes. So there's a lot of decision makers, a lot of voices going into recruitment. You've got two sporting directors, as we've mentioned. We've got the two sort of key figureheads at the top of the club. You've got a head of recruitment, you've got a head of goalkeeping, you've got a manager, you've got their data analysts. All these people are feeding into these recruitment decisions. And I think what we've seen in this window, and the Raheem Sterling deal kind of links back to this, is that Clearlake have kind of taken the reins a bit now. And what they've tried to do is sort of calm this all down a bit. And they're trying to clear out a lot of the players that they feel are no longer part of the future of Chelsea. And Raheem Sterling is quite significant, because obviously he was the first major signing of this new era. And that was, I think they feel, a sort of a Boehly-led, let's throw a lot of money at this. Let's pay 325 grand a week for a proven Premier League player, whatever he was, 28, 29. Let's get him in. He can hit the ground running straight away. And they've moved now towards trying to sign younger players on lower initial wages on these massive long-term contracts that are incentivised over a long period of time. And I think that the hope is, when we talk about the power struggle and how it will affect things, I think Clearlake's view is that now this can start to settle down. Because at the end of the day, they've got 61.5% of the shares in the club. They can call all the shots here. They don't have to sell. My information is they don't want to sell. They've got no interest in selling. And so it might just be a case that while Todd Boehly has major sign-off over all the decisions, and at the moment he's not vetoed any big transfer, and that is something that could happen down the line if there is a power struggle and the relationship really deteriorates entirely. But for the time being, the hope from the Clearlake side is that that they've sort of won the battle, if you like. Todd Boehly's kind of been marginalised a little bit, and they can just start to settle down and let this team bed in under Enzo Maresca and try and get the results on the pitch.
Oh, Frank, you're our resident actor. Is this all dramatic enough for you?
What, losing Sterling?
The whole situation that James was discussing.
No, while James was talking, you know, I was feeling my blood boiling in a way, you know, where I'm really fed up. Those people don't understand anything. They forgot that football was played by human beings and not products. And depending on their form, you know, you can see your share going up or down. But what they created with Chelsea, and not for long, is a real big mess. And you have to understand football to be involved in. And we see so many people getting into that business because it's a business without knowing the purpose of it and how it works. You know, saying for some executive chief, saying that fans are customers, players are products, that doesn't bring something good for the club. And I'm very worried for Chelsea. Hopefully it's going to get better. I don't know how, but I just pray for it. But really, it's a big mess. I just want to see those people going and maybe somebody good to go. When I came and I signed for Chelsea, my chairman, Ken Bates, was a milk delivery chairman of a company, but he never went into football. He was just a chairman, and he let the good people working on it and making Chelsea better. That's the point. Those people know nothing, but are completely involved.
Well, they did walk into the odd dressing room or two 5 minutes before kickoff, which was to the surprise of one or two managers. But look, when you have too many cooks in the kitchen, the pots and pans start flying, and that's not a good thing. And as James said, now that you sort of look at this and see the fractured relationship between direction towards direction of the club, then maybe, just maybe, you could understand. Maybe you could understand a little bit the haphazard nature of the recruitment. But I'm giving them a bit of leeway there, a lot of leeway, because even when there's a fractured ownership battle, you should still have some sense of normality about recruitment, which there has not been. However, Chelsea need, like most clubs, like all clubs, a clear direction. And that clear direction is not people fighting at the top with a power struggle. Because that's not going to lead to good, cohesive strategy, which Chelsea have not had. Now, Enzo Maresca's in there at the moment, trying to make the best of it. We'll see if he's the latest to succeed. But that, until they sort this out, and I'm sure they will at some point, but the quicker they sort it out, the better, because when you sit around the boardroom and there's so many discerning voices wanting to go in different directions, then it is not going to take the club forward. So this is something that needs to be fixed pretty soon, because it's a mess. It's a mess with the amount of money they've spent, the amount of players they've got, the amount of players that are just at the training ground but not wanted is a ridiculous thing to be having to deal with. So the quicker these money men sort this out, then this club can start moving forward in a cohesive direction that's going to take them back amongst the elite, which they are not at the moment.